Betrayal Beyond Words. My mom sold my life for my brother. The chill of betrayal still clings to me, a phantom limb of a life I thought I knew. You won't believe how low someone can stoop, especially someone who should be your protector, your champion. It all exploded when I discovered the unthinkable. Mom forged my signature to sell my apartment and pay for my brother's college. When I called her, her words were like shards of glass. You brought this on yourself. If you had just shared your wealth willingly, that's when I knew I had to act. Going to the cops felt like a betrayal of its own. But what choice did I have? And the shock, it just kept coming. My name is Sarah, and this is my story. It all started when I was just a little kid, shadowed by my brother, Mark. He was always the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Or so it seemed to my mom, Lynn. He couldn't take it anymore, not making enough money, always putting him down, making him feel like crap. I remember this one time Dad came home excited about a promotion at work. He was grinning from ear to ear, proud of himself for once. Mom just looked at him and said, "That's it. I thought you'd finally gotten a real job." The light just went out of his eyes. It was like watching someone deflate. Can't say I blame him now, looking back, but at the time it felt like my whole world was falling apart. Mom, though, she saw an opportunity. "I'm so sorry I'm late again, Mr. Johnson," she sniffled. Sarah was sick and with no one to help. Meanwhile, I was perfectly fine, spending the morning watching cartoons while Mom did her hair and makeup. Family gatherings were the worst. Mom would hold court, dramatically recounting how Dad had left us with nothing. Even at that age, I knew better than to contradict Mom in public. What no one knew was that Dad was sending money every month. Child support, he called it. Pathetic, Mom would sneer. I didn't know how much it was supposed to be. All I knew was that it made Mom angry. As the years went by, I started noticing things, like how Mom would look at me sometimes. Later, I realized it was because I looked too much like him. It brought back memories for her, but she kept me around. I was useful, you see. The picture of the struggling single mom and her brave little girl was too good to pass up. Then, when I was about 10, everything changed again. Mom met Richard. Suddenly, being a struggling single mom wasn't so appealing anymore. The devoted wife of a prominent businessman, that was the role she craved. And I didn't fit into that picture so well. It started small at first. Mom would forget to wash my clothes, so I'd show up in wrinkled hand-me-downs. Then came the food situation. Mom would cook these elaborate meals for her and Richard. But when I came to the table, "Oh, Sarah, I'm sorry. I didn't make enough for free. Why don't you make yourself a sandwich? A peanut butter and jelly sandwich." Through the door, I could hear Mom and Richard laughing. The worst was when she started messing with my schoolwork. I'd spend hours on an assignment, only to have it disappear the next morning, leaving me stammering excuses to my teacher. My grades started to slip. Through it all, Richard remained oblivious, completely under her spell. "Richard, darling, you work so hard. You deserve to relax," she'd coo, batting her eyelashes. "What would I do without you, Linda?" Things got even worse when Mom announced she was pregnant. Richard was over the moon, and Mom milked it for all it was worth. "The doctor says I need plenty of rest. Be a dear and tidy up the house." When Richard came home, it was, "Honey, I'm so tired. Growing a baby is hard work." Richard would rush to her side. "Sit down, my love." At school, I withdrew from my friends. I was too embarrassed to invite them over. At home, I was little more than a servant. One night, as I lay in bed listening to Mom and Richard cooing over nursery designs, something in me snapped. I couldn't do this anymore. I needed out. With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and did something I'd never dared to do before. I called my dad and told him everything. The neglect, the lies, the constant feeling of being unwanted. There was only the sound of his breathing. When I finally ran out of words, there was a long pause. "Pack your bags. I'm coming to get you." The next morning, I woke up early, my heart pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. I had already packed my bags the night before, unable to sleep from my anticipation. As I dragged my suitcase down the stairs, I heard Mom's voice from the kitchen. "Going somewhere, Sarah?" I froze, expecting a confrontation. There was a strange smile on her face. "I'm going to live with Dad," I said. To my shock, Mom smiled. She said, "Richard and I could use the extra space for the baby." Her words hit me like a slap. That was it. Mom walked me to the door, that unsettling smile still in place. "Have a good life, Sarah," she said. As I walked to Dad's car, I glanced back. It was the happiest I'd seen her in years, and it was because I was leaving. However, over the next few months, it seemed like every week brought news of a new contract. Within a year, we were living in one of the most exclusive neighborhoods. The house we ended up buying was nothing short of spectacular. 3 stories of modern architecture, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a backyard that looked like something out of a magazine. My room was bigger than our entire old apartment. I learned to cook gourmet meals, managed the household stuff, and even started a vegetable garden in our spacious house. As the months passed, his business kept growing, and with our lifestyle it improved even more. I transferred to the most prestigious private school in the city. On my 16th birthday, I received not just any car, but a brand new luxury SUV. Now you can drive yourself to school in style and maybe run some errands for your old man. Dad grinned. As I settled into my new life, she never tried to contact me, and I made no effort to reach out to her or any of my maternal relatives. The wounds were still too fresh. I was graduating college with honors. As I stood on that stage accepting my diploma, I searched the crowd for Dad's face. This was what it felt like to be loved, truly and unconditionally. After the ceremony, he said, "I've got something for you," handing me a small box. "It's for your new apartment in the city centre. Consider it a graduation gift." Tears welled up in my eyes as I hugged him fiercely. "Thank you." It has been a few years since I graduated from college. My career was taking off. I had a beautiful apartment in the city, and life was good. Dad and I had settled into a comfortable routine of weekly dinners and long phone calls. Everything was perfect. Then the news came like a thunderbolt out of a clear sky. Dad was sick cancer. From that moment on, my world narrowed to a singular focus. I took a leave of absence from work, moving back into his house to take care of him. Every waking moment was devoted to his care. I researched treatments, consulted specialists, anything that might give us a fighting chance. The months that followed were a brutal cycle of hope and despair. There were 3 bad ones filled with pain and nausea from the treatments. One evening, as I was helping him back to bed after a particularly rough day, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "Sarah, I need you to promise me something. Promise me you'll live your life. Don't let this hold you back." I wanted to argue, to tell him he was going to be fine, but we both knew better. He died 2 weeks later. I was holding his hand when he took his last breath. I'd tell him how much I loved him, how grateful I was for everything he'd done for me. The next few days passed in a blur. I felt numb, going through the motions of arranging the funeral. There were so many details to handle. It all felt surreal, like I was planning an event for someone else. I was at the funeral home, trying to decide on music for the service, when my phone rang. A known number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. "Hello, Sarah. Is this your mother?" I nearly dropped the phone. After all these years of silence, what do I stammered? "I heard about Mark," she said, her voice softer than I remembered. "I'm so sorry, sweetie. I'd like to help with the funeral arrangements. I wanted to hang up, to tell her to go to hell, but I was so tired." "Okay," I heard myself say. "You can help." As I ended the call, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just opened a door I should have kept firmly shut. But with Dad gone, Mum was the only family I had left. Mum arrived at the funeral home an hour after our call with my half-brother, Thomas, looking awkward and gangly. I watched as Mum fussed over him. "What do you need me to do?" Despite my reservations, I put her to work. To my surprise, Mum turned out to be surprisingly helpful, arranging the flowers and dealing with the endless parade of well wishes. The funeral itself was a blur. I remember standing there, numb. Linda stayed close. It felt strange. After the service, as people were filing out of the cemetery, Linda approached me again. "Sarah, I know this might not be the best time, but I'd like to stay in touch. Maybe we could get coffee sometime." This was the woman who had been thrilled to see me leave, but she was also the only family I had left. "Maybe," I said finally. "I'll think about it." To my surprise, she actually followed through. "How are you holding up, sweetie? Is there anything you need?" At first, I brushed it off, but as the reality of Dad's absence set in, I found myself craving any kind of connection, even if it was with Linda. The calls continued. "Your father's business. Hope it's not causing you too much stress. Mark always works so hard." Then she started changing the subject. "Thomas is looking at colleges. The tuition these days, I don't know how we're going to manage it." I made a non-committal noise, my guard instantly up. Another time, "The economy. You know it's hitting everyone hard." And each time, I could feel the unspoken expectation hanging in the air. Despite my initial reservations, and against my better judgment, I started helping. It started innocently enough, helping Thomas with his SAT prep courses. "I don't know what we'd do without you," Mum would gush, and each time I felt a warmth in my chest. Was this what it felt like to have a real family? Meanwhile, I threw myself into running Dad's company, making important decisions. I felt closer to that every time I sat in his office. As the months passed, the requests became more substantial. What started as occasional help turned into regular expectations. The breaking point came on a sunny Tuesday afternoon. I was knee-deep in quarterly reports when Linda called. "Sarah, darling, we've been thinking. It's been so long since we had a proper family vacation. We found this amazing package deal for a European tour." I felt my stomach drop. "Linda, I don't know it would mean so much to Thomas. And after all we've been through, don't you think we deserve a little happiness?" Before I knew it, I caved. But it didn't stop there. The day after they returned, Linda was on the phone again. "We'll need you to set that up right away. He's got his heart set on Princeton." Something in me snapped. All the years of neglect, the emotional abuse, the manipulation, it all came rushing back. "No more," I said, my voice shaking. "Mom, I'm done." There was a pause, then her voice dripped with venom. "After everything we've done for you, you ungrateful little scum. How dare you turn your back on your family? I let out a bitter sound. Family, you mean the mother who was thrilled to see me leave? The one who made my childhood a living hell? The argument escalated quickly. Linda dropped all pretense of affection, hurling accusations and insults. I gave as good as I got. You're just like your father, she spat, selfish and cold-hearted. At least he loved me. The line went dead. I stood there, shaking, my phone clutched in my hand. I needed a chance to get away to clear my head. I bought a last-minute ticket to somewhere tropical. As I boarded the plane, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. Maybe this was what I needed. I was looking forward to the comfort of my own bed, and all I wanted was to kick off my shoes and relax in my apartment. But as I turned the key in the lock, something fell off. The door swung open to reveal a completely different apartment. Gone were my carefully chosen furnishings, replaced by unfamiliar decor. A startled couple stared at me from the couch. Who are you? What are you doing in my apartment? The man stood up. I stopped looking confused. Your apartment? We bought this place a couple of weeks ago from a woman named Linda, I think. The world tilted on its axis. Linda, my mother, there must be some mistake, I said, my voice shaking. I never sold this apartment. I've been out of the country. The couple exchanged worried glances. We have all the paperwork, the woman said hesitant. Maybe you should talk to your realtor. I stumbled out of the apartment, my mind reeling. My first instinct was to call the police, report a fraud. I needed to hear it from her. With trembling fingers, I dialed her number. Twice. Hello, Sarah, what I had been thinking. Mom's voice was sickeningly sweet. How was your trip? What did you do to my apartment? Linda, I actually left. Oh, Sarah, she said. If you had just shared your wealth willingly, it wouldn't have come to this. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. You sold my apartment. How could you? I'll go to the police. Linda interrupted, her tone suddenly sharp. Report your own mother to the authorities, please. We both know you don't have a spine for that. Leaving me standing on the sidewalk, homeless and ill. But Linda's smug certainty had ignited a fire in me. I found Dad with Dad in the kitchen, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Richard, we need to talk. Sarah, what's going on? I pushed past him into the house. Where's Linda? Richard looked confused. Sarah, what's this about? In a rush, I told him everything. The lies, the financial manipulations, the apartment. But that's impossible, he stammered. We don't need money for Thomas's education. I've already set aside funds for that. We stared at each other, the truth dawning on us both. With shaking hands, Richard pulled out his laptop, logging into his bank accounts, credit card bills and loan applications. As we pored over them, a horrifying picture emerged. Mom had secretly taken out loans and now she admired in debt. I had no idea, he whispered. All this time, I felt a strange mix of vindication and pity. Richard had been just as deceived as I had been. As the full extent of Linda's deception became clear, I felt a cold resolve settle over me. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was fraud, plain and simple. I didn't hesitate. The moment I hung up with a 911 operator, a weight lifted off my shoulders. For too long, I'd been a victim. Not anymore. The investigation that followed was brutal but necessary. She hadn't just forged my signature to sell my apartment. Credit card statements revealed her extravagant purchases. Designer clothes, luxury spa treatments, 5-star hotels, all hidden from Richard, all financed through a web of lies and secret loans. The trial became a media circus. The media was hungry for every sort of detail. I hated the attention, but I couldn't back down. In the end, justice prevailed. Mom was found guilty on all counts: fraud, forgery, and theft. The judge's words still ring in my ears. Mrs. Linda Harrison, your actions show a blatant disregard for the law and a shocking betrayal of your family's trust value. The fraudulently sold apartment to Sarah Harrison. Richard broke down the day after the sentencing. He said, his voice rough with emotion, I'm filing for divorce and I'm seeking full custody of Thomas. After what she's done, I can't let her near him. In the aftermath, I found myself rebuilding my life once again. The apartment money was returned and I bought a small house on the outskirts of the city. A fresh start. I threw myself into running Dad's company, honoring his legacy the best way I knew how. The work was challenging but rewarding. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was truly standing on my own 2 feet. Thomas and I keep in touch. He's in college now, studying engineering with Richard's support. It's bittersweet. As for Linda, I haven't heard from her since the trial. I don't know if she's tried to reach out, and honestly, I don't want to know. That chapter of my life is closed. So, after hearing everything, tell me, did I do the right thing? Was going to the police the only real option? Was there anything else I could have done to handle this differently? I'm still grappling with the fallout, and any perspective you can offer would be invaluable as I try to move forward and heal from this incredible betrayal. So please share your thoughts honestly.